Hello, my name is Sarah. I am currently halfway through a 2-year treatment plan for ALL, which is acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And obviously there's a lot of physical challenges when you're going through cancer treatment, but I would say probably there's almost even more mental and emotional, and it kind of hits you at different times and you process different things along the way, sometimes right away while it's happening, and then sometimes it'll surprise you, 6 months later that you finally are feeling the impact of something you went through 6 months ago. And so along those lines, I've realized that I've never really fully told anyone my full diagnosis experience and my experiences over the last year. I obviously have talked to people in pieces about it and as it was happening, but lately I've started kind of meeting more people going through similar things and telling my story and realizing it's cathartic in a way to just put it all out there and then kind of be done processing it. So I wanted to do that. So I'm going to use YouTube as a way to help me process what I've been through over the last year. And also in hopes that maybe it helps other people going through it, knowing they're not alone and just hearing other stories that you can relate to. It's a lot. I have a lot to process, so I'm going to try to do it in small chunks. And this is the first one. So I think I'll just start with the initial diagnosis and what that experience was like for me. So in 2019, I actually decided to leave New York City and travel for a year. So I left my job, I started doing freelance work, and I was traveling with this program called Remote Year that helps make it easy for you to find an apartment and a co-working space in a different country every month. So every month I was moving. I was in South America to begin with, then Asia. And in December, I was staying in Lisbon, Portugal. And we had just come from Croatia. So this was December, so I had gone home actually for Thanksgiving back and met my family in Florida because Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. So I was back in the US for a week and a half. And actually on the flight from Croatia to, I think it was Munich, I had a layover when I was going back to the US. All of a sudden on the flight just started feeling really, really hot and just something was up and it wasn't really going away. So I stood up on the flight to go to the bathroom and just kind of take a minute. And all of a sudden I woke up on the floor of the aisle of the plane. And I was like, what is happening? I had never before in my life fainted. I had no idea what the feeling was like. And I kind of was looking around and I realized I'm on the floor of an airplane. And I slowly stand up. And the stewardess who I remember tapping her on the back because she was kind of in the way to get to the bathroom. And I was like, oh my God, I'm really not feeling well. So I remember tapping her to tell her I'm not feeling well. And I guess right as I did that, I fainted, fell on a guy who was some German guy who was sitting on the plane. He was yeah, all of a sudden I just felt something on me and it was you. So I guess he broke my fall because I didn't get hurt or anything like that. But I was traveling by myself in a foreign country and I just fainted on a plane. I was like, what the hell is happening? So I went back to my seat. The stewardess was like, this happens when you have low blood sugar or something like that. So she brought me a Coke, she brought me some things to eat. And then I just slowly started feeling better. And I was obviously nervous when I got on the second flight flying back to the US because that one's way longer. But I kind of just made sure I was hydrated, eating a lot, and everything ended up being fine. So when I got to Florida, I was like, that was weird. I've never fainted in my life. So I actually went to urgent care and was like, here's what happened. They did an EKG just to test my heart, my blood pressure, those things. And he was like, it was probably nothing. People faint all the time. You had been out the night before and were tired and probably dehydrated. And so after that, no one really thought anything of it. And I flew around the US, saw people I cared about, and went back to Portugal. And then I had been in Portugal for a few days and I had noticed that I was kind of short of breath which also I was in really good shape. I was working out like every day. So I was kind of surprised by it, but we had also moved into a pretty old apartment in Lisbon. So I was like, I'm sure it's just dust and like weird smells and it'll be fine. So I was like, but I'll keep an eye on it. So a few days later, it had been a week and I was still feeling short of breath. I went on this bike tour around Lisbon to see different neighborhoods, and once again, I was like, why am I so tired? Well, this like casual bike ride, this never happens. And when I went back to my apartment, we were just one flight up, and I walked up the stairs and I was like gassed, like so tired, breathing, and I was like, this is weird. I went to bed. This was a Sunday night, and I woke up in the middle of the night having the feeling again like I was gonna faint. But this time I had like done some research on it, so I like put my head between my knees and just breathed really slowly, and I didn't faint, but I was like, that's weird. Why did I wake up in the middle of the night feeling like I'm gonna faint? I have been short of breath, like I need to do something about it. So I went to my roommate, it was like 5 a.m., knocked on her door. I was like, I'm so sorry, Molly, but like, here's what happened and I don't feel safe sleeping alone in my room. She was like, yeah, just come sleep with me. So I'm like laying there thinking, and then I'm like, Molly, I need to go to the hospital. Like, this is weird. Something feels wrong. These things, I know people who faint all the time or whatever, and it's okay, but like, I don't do that. I've never done that. So this is not normal for me. So she was the best friend in the world. She like did a bunch, she like just Googled it really quickly. She's like, let's go to this hospital, called an Uber. We went to the hospital. And well, like, without giving all the details of how that went, basically they found that my left lung was like 50% filled with fluid. So that's why I was having trouble, taking a full breath and not getting out of breath a lot. They thought initially it was either because I had maybe pneumonia, or since I was flying every week, and I was on birth control at the time. So they were like, it's likely that you have a pulmonary embolism, like things that were annoying, but like, can be dealt with after like within a week or two. And then, so they were like, you likely have a pulmonary embolism. We're gonna have to drain your lungs, or you might have to be in the hospital for like 7 days. And I was like, 7 days? That's insane. Like, what the hell? And so they checked me in. They were like, while we're still running some more tests, there's like, let's just check you into the hospital. At this point, I had literally in my life never been checked into the hospital before. Never even, I guess I entered a hospital like to visit my grandma or something like that, but I had never been in a hospital. So I'm in Lisbon. I remember like the doctors are being great speaking English, but it's not their first language. I remember when I went into the, I got not an MRI, a CAT scan, and like I go into the machine and it starts talking to me in Portuguese. It's like, so now I know, because I've done them a lot, it's like telling me to breathe in, hold my breath, breathe out, and it's telling me in Portuguese. So I'm like talking back to it in case anyone can hear me. I'm like, I don't know what it's saying. I don't know what it wants me to do. And I'm like yelling back at this CT scan machine, like who's speaking a different language to me. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, so me and Molly are sitting in my new hospital room just being like, whoa, this is wild. Like, good thing I came. Like, I guess there was something wrong. And Portuguese doctor comes in and he's like, I don't really know how to say this. Like, if I could tell you in Portuguese, I would probably say it a lot better. But your scan showed a really enlarged lymph node in your chest. And I think you have lymphoma. And I was like, what? I was like, what is lymphoma cancer? Literally, I had no idea. And he was like, yes. And I was just, now that I'm thinking back to it, I was just in my mind like, what? Like, I knew immediately that like my entire life was gonna change in this moment. And I'm not really a super dramatic person, so I didn't have a big reaction. I kind of went into just like information gathering mode. So I was like, okay, what is lymphoma? How is it caused? All these, and I just kind of was like, started just asking all these questions. And Molly was like, I could not believe how like collected you were in that moment. But I think I just went into like, I need to better understand this. And he was a great doctor. He did the best he could. He was like, lymphoma is a treatable cancer. Like, it's actually fairly common. Like, here's what we would do from here. You know, we would need to take a biopsy to confirm it and learn more about it. And, you know, kind of just gave me a lot of information, and then was like, I'll give you some time to process. And my immediate thought was just like, how am I gonna tell my family? Like, I'm gonna start crying thinking about it, because obviously I had just received news that was gonna change my life forever, but I kind of was like, it's okay, I can handle this. Like, here, I just need to get more information, we'll figure out what to do. Like, I kind of got into like planning mode, but I was like, how do you call your parents and say, from Portugal, from a foreign country, and say like, I know, you know, I'm in the hospital, we thought it was a pulmonary embolism, but I have cancer. Like, that hadn't even crossed any of our minds as a possibility of what could be wrong with me. I mean, I didn't, yeah, you just never think of that. And so I called my sister. We're super close. It's a work day, middle of the work day, and I just FaceTime her. She knew I was in the hospital, so she answered right away. She's like walking through her office, like no headphones, out loud. And I was just like, Allie, like, it's not good news. Like, I have cancer. And like, she just sits down in her office on the floor, and we're just like talking out loud about it. Like, and I'm just like, how do I tell mom and dad? Like, I don't even know what to say. And so we called them together. I don't really remember how the conversation went. But immediately my mom was like, I'm coming there. You're coming back to Boston. And I was like, they want to do a biopsy, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, no, like, you don't know what could go wrong. Like, I do not want them to be like, go in and do a biopsy, find something else. And now you have to be like, being treated in Portugal. So she made the total right call. So she literally that night flew to Portugal from Boston. I went back, you know, to my apartment. I was traveling with 30 people through a remote year. I texted the group saying, you know, here's the deal. I'm leaving tomorrow. I can't finish the year with everyone. And I was like, I would love to see people. I'm known for loving my horrible reality romance shows. So I was like, I would love to see people tonight. I'm gonna force you all to watch Love Island, anyone who can come. Every single person came. They were so kind, even though none of us knew like how to talk about the situation. We just sat and watched reality shows for like 2 hours, and everyone was just joking, and it was like such a special moment. My mom was on a flight on the way here. Once everyone left, I was like, I need to take a shower, I need a minute. And I remember just looking at myself in the mirror in the bathroom before getting in the shower and saying like, you can handle this, Sarah. Like, and I said it out loud. And I was like, you know, 5-10 years ago, it would have been harder. You didn't know yourself as well, but like the work you've done on yourself for the last few years, I just was like, I looked myself in the mirror and I said out loud, like, this is gonna suck, but you got this. You can handle this. Like, let's go. And so woke up at like 6 a.m. the next morning. My mom was at the door, hugged her. I don't even think any of us had cried at this point, to be honest. We were just kind of like, what do we do? We're very much like type A planners in my family. And so we got my suitcase, ate at one of my favorite breakfast places in Portugal. That's the last restaurant I've been to now since the last year and a half. And immediately got on a plane. Couldn't get a flight back to Boston, so we got one to New York, which is where my sister lives. So I met my sister. My dad had taken a train from Boston to New York just to be there. So like, me and mom landed in New York. We go to Penn Station. We meet my sister and my dad, and the four of us get on a train back to Boston. And like, now that I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, that is so amazing. They just wanted to be there, and we were like, it was like a clear sign, like, we're doing this together. Like, you're not on your own. Like, this is a thing, we're all doing it. And so took the train back to Boston, got back pretty late, so went to bed. Somehow my dad had managed to get me into an appointment at the Brigham, like literally the next day. I have no idea how he did that. So 9 a.m. I wake up, go to the Brigham, and tell them you know, my symptoms, they don't know what they're like, we can't rule out anything. Like it could be cancer, it could be hepatitis, it could be AIDS, like you've been traveling to all these countries, like we don't know what it is. And so they kind of started from the beginning. I did a couple more tests there and went home, and they're like, well, see the results and we'll figure out the plan from there. I was home for maybe 30 minutes. I was laying in bed trying to take a nap, and I get a call from an unknown number, and I'm like, this can't be good. So I answer. It's the woman who I had met with, and she's like, you need to come back to the hospital immediately. Your heart is like, there's fluid lining your heart in the space that's supposed to be open for it to be able to beat, and like, you cannot be at home. You need to be in a hospital immediately. So that's when we were all just like, wow, this is happening. Packed a bag, immediately checked into I can't remember if we went to the ER or straight to the hospital. Honestly, I've been to the hospital and ER so many times over the last year, it all starts to blend together, but immediately checked in. And this was now maybe like December 18th, 19th, something like that. Oh, it must have been like 17th or 18th, because my sister's birthday is the 19th, and we spent that in the hospital. So yeah, like December 17th maybe. And yeah, checked into the hospital and didn't leave until the end of February. So I'll stop there. There's more to the diagnosis story, obviously. But that's how I first found out that, you know, while I was traveling the world in Lisbon, Portugal, my entire life was gonna change. Learned that lymphoma was in fact a cancer. And obviously it's not, you know, the diagnosis changed since that's not what I have. And I'll just leave us on that little cliffhanger until the next part of my diagnosis story.